You walk into a room 5 minutes late. Every head turns. Everyone sees the coffee stain on your sleeve. Everyone notices the sweat on your forehead. Everyone is judging you. At least, that's what your brain is telling you. Here's what actually happened. Maybe 2 people glanced up. 1 looked back down before you even sat down. Your brain invented the rest. This isn't a metaphor. This isn't low self-esteem. This is your brain running a program it has been running since before you were born. And it runs it so smoothly, so automatically, so completely beneath your awareness that you have never once caught it in the act. Until now. In 2000, a psychologist named Thomas Gilovich ran a study at Cornell University that would quietly change everything we thought we understood about self-consciousness. The experiment was simple. He took a group of college students and asked each one to put on a t-shirt with a large photograph of Barry Manilow printed on the front. Among college students at the time, wearing a Barry Manilow shirt was the social equivalent of walking into a room with a sign that said, "Please judge me." Each student was then told to walk into a room where a group of other students were already sitting. They walked in, sat down briefly, and were pulled out. Outside the room, researchers asked one question: how many people in that room do you think noticed your t-shirt? On average, the students guessed 50%. Half the room, they assumed, had registered Barry Manilow's face staring back at them. Then Gilovich asked the people who had been sitting in the room what they actually remembered. Fewer than 25% noticed the shirt. Some didn't even remember anyone walking in. The students wearing the shirt thought they were twice as visible as they actually were. Gilovich called this the spotlight effect. The belief that a spotlight is following you everywhere you go, illuminating your flaws, your mistakes, your coffee stains, for an audience that is paying far more attention to you than they actually are. Here's what makes it stranger. Gilovich and his team ran the experiment again and again. They tested it with flattering shirts. Bob Marley, Martin Luther King Jr., same result. Whether the attention was embarrassing or positive, people believed they were being noticed far more than they were. They tested it in conversations. Students rated how much others noticed their best comments and their most awkward pauses. Every single time, people overestimated their own visibility by roughly double. You are not as visible as you think you are. You never were. But here's the part that goes deeper than a study about t-shirts. Your brain doesn't just overestimate how much people notice you. It overestimates how much of your internal world is visible to others at all. Gilovich discovered a second phenomenon sitting right beside the first. He called it the illusion of transparency. The belief that your emotions are written on your face for everyone to read. They tested it by having people give speeches while feeling intensely nervous. After the speech, the speakers rated how visible their nervousness had been. Then, the audience rated how nervous the speaker seemed. The gap was enormous. The speakers were convinced their anxiety was radiating outward. The audience barely registered it. In another version, participants tasted drinks, some pleasant, some deeply unpleasant, while being watched. The tasters were certain observers could tell which drink they were tasting just from their facial reactions. The observers could barely tell at all. Your inner world is far more hidden than you think. The anxiety pulsing through your chest right now is invisible to everyone in the room. The embarrassment burning in your ears doesn't show the way you think it does. The sadness you carried into work this morning didn't announce itself to your coworkers the way it felt like it did. You are living inside a spotlight that only exists inside your own head. So why does your brain do this? Why build a system that makes you feel permanently watched, permanently exposed, permanently on stage for an audience that has already looked away? The answer goes back further than psychology. It goes back to the kind of world your brain was actually built for. For most of human history, you lived in a group of 50 to 150 people, your tribe. In that world, your reputation wasn't a social nicety. It was a survival mechanism. If the tribe saw you as weak, unreliable, or strange, you could be pushed out, away from the group, away from the fire, away from protection. For tens of thousands of years, being noticed, really noticed negatively, could get you killed. Your brain evolved inside that world. It learned to assume the worst about how others perceived you, because in that environment, being wrong about whether someone was watching you was a mistake you might not survive. It treated social visibility the way it treated physical danger, as something worth overestimating, because underestimating it was too costly. But you don't live in a tribe of 150 anymore. You live in a world of 8 billion people. You pass more strangers in a single commute than your ancestors met in an entire lifetime, and your brain hasn't updated its operating system. It is still running ancient threat detection software in a world that no longer matches the threats it was built to detect. Every time you walk into a room and feel the spotlight, that's not weakness. That's not anxiety. That is a 200,000-year-old survival program misfiring in a world it was never designed for. Here's what changes when you actually understand this. Think about the last time you said something awkward in a meeting, the last time you tripped in public, the last time you sent a message with a typo to a group chat. You have been carrying those moments. You have replayed them. You have felt the heat of them days later. The people who witnessed them forgot within minutes, not because they were being kind, because they were the star of their own movie. And in their movie, you were background scenery. This is the strangest thing about the spotlight effect. Everyone is standing in their own private spotlight, convinced they are the most observed person in the room, while simultaneously paying almost no attention to anyone else. 8 billion people, each one certain they are being watched, none of them actually watching. You walk into a room 5 minutes late. Maybe 2 people glance up. One looks back down before you sit. The other is already thinking about what they're having for lunch. Nobody sees the coffee stain. Nobody clocks the sweat. Nobody is keeping score. Your brain told you a story. It was a very old story, and it had absolutely nothing to do with what was actually happening in that room.